Ghosts, spirits, hauntings, they whisper along the lines between truth and myth, tantalizing us with their possibilities. Some people swear to have encountered the spirits of the dead, while others firmly believe this is impossible. Regardless of what the truth is, the concept of ghosts binds us together, intertwining our past and future together in a fascinating way. The possibility of a spiritual life represents the human desire to touch and to understand the afterlife, such as it may be. A good ghost story can scare, enthrall, and connect us to nameless people who lived 100 years ago. Helps us to understand the life they lived and the hardships they've endured. In this video series, we are exploring some of the strangest and the most enduring ghost stories of our local area. A strange, frightening mystery in 1906 put Domingus face to face with someone who called themselves Jack the Ripper, in reference to the infamous British serial killer from a few years prior. Because Jack the Ripper was never caught, he inspired criminals and killers around the world to operate under his nickname, terrorizing local communities. Dothan's personal Jack the Ripper appeared in 1906 and eluded capture for months, continuing to trouble new victims into 1907. Someone started to break into homes in Dothan, and the random crime soon coalesced into an alarming pattern. This eerie, unidentifiable figure didn't murder people, but rather broke into homes, stole valuables, and peeped through windows. While theft might seem preferable to being murdered, imagine a pale face staring through your window or cold hands reaching out to grip your throat as you lie helpless. Even well-appointed homes and safe communities were targeted. When a terrified victim awoke and asked the dark figure his name, the man simply responded, Jack the Ripper. Stories of Jack spread like wildfire through Dothan, a mixture of rumors, horror stories, and true accounts that set residents on the edge. The criminal almost seemed like a ghost. Even the most well-protected homes fell prey to his nocturnal visits, and no one could quite figure out how he did it. Footprints were found at some of the crime scenes. Domingus and his police crew were able to determine that the tracks that Jack walked with a limp, but no matter how hard they searched, they could not find this hiding place. It seemed like he simply vanished in the morning light, waiting for when he could strike again. People wondered if he was even human. As the break-ins continued, panic started to escalate in the community. Jack appeared again and again, a dark shape, a cold breath, and a killing touch in the dark that left no clues to his location or identity. What was his goal? Because of his serial killer namesake, people felt it was only a matter of time before a poor man, woman, or child would be found murdered in their bed. Domingus redoubled his efforts to find the man, refusing to let such a ghost haunt his town. But it wasn't Domingus that finally found the ghost. Students of Howe School, the recently built grammar school, got the shock of their lives when they entered the rarely used basement. A man was sleeping in the underground room, and it looked like a hiding place someone had used for months, the lair of a transient or criminal. Without waking the man, the children quietly rushed away to find adult help. 3 young men, John Hilson, Herbert Snades, and Quay Fortner, carefully entered the basement. Above their heads, children were reciting their lessons, oblivious to the darkness carried out below. 2 of the men kept careful watch, while the 3rd hurried to Domingus. The tall, powerful police chief with his gun fearlessly approached the basement lair. By now, the door to the basement was surrounded by police and local men, all of them eager to finally end the long, nightmarish reign of Jack the Ripper. Domingus shouted for the man, who was now surely awakened by all the fuss, to surrender himself. A voice echoed back up the dark stairway, refusing the demands. In a gesture that harkens back to the Dothan riot and Domingus's readiness to shoot, the police chief took his famous pistol and fired it into the basement. The elusive criminal didn't seem so ghostly as he rushed out into the daylight, surrendering meekly. At last, the haunting figure that had tormented Dothan was exposed. During this time, it was common for criminals to be leased out to companies who performed particularly dangerous or challenging labor. Jack was actually such a prisoner who had escaped after being loaned to Henderson Boyd Lumber Company. His name was Jesse Shepard, and he had packed a lot of crimes into his 20 years on Earth. After facing the business end of Domingus' gun, Shepard was tried in Houston County. Almost the entire population of Dothan came out to witness his trial. He probably looked out across the sea of angry faces, including people he had terrorized, toyed with, and robbed. He pleaded guilty on 5 counts, on top of the crimes for which he had originally been in prison. 40 years in the penitentiary removed Shepard from Dothan for good. If he had ever returned, he would have faced Domingus' fire and fury, a form of law enforcement he might not have walked away from. Unlike the Dothan riot, no one in this situation died. Even though he was just one young man, Shepard held a profound psychological sway over Dothan. In a way, he spread just as much, or more, fear as the actual Jack the Ripper. He came and went unseen, taking advantage of the trust people put in their locks on their doors to allow them to sleep safely. Even when he left signs of his presence, even the best policemen could not trace him. Worst of all were the people who had to wake up and look into the shadowy face, feeling a strange hand groping at them. Absolutely no one felt safe, and even reinforcing their windows and doors could not stop him. Everyone knew that they might be the next victim. No one knew if Shepard would eventually kill or not. He had chosen the name of a dreadful murderer, dangling the threat of death over Dothan for a dreadfully protracted period of time. Each time a family put their child to bed, they would wonder if the child would be alive in the morning. Women had to consider each night how they might be robbed, killed, assaulted, or kidnapped, for no one knew what Jack wanted from them. This prolonged period of terror must have troubled Domingus greatly. As a man of action, he didn't know what to do when he found himself facing something so elusive and mysterious. For months, he struggled with the knowledge that his town was in danger each and every night. Chasing a ghost and watching the town dissolve into panic stretched him to his limit, but he never gave up. He is an unforgettable part of Dothan's history and loved the city with a fervor that may have even extended beyond the grave. After his death in 1942, some Dothan residents claimed to see a tall, dapper figure in white patrolling the streets at the junction of South St. Andrew Street and Main Street, where the riot occurred. Others have heard the faint sound of hooves in the same area. Those who have seen the figure like to believe that the figure is Police Chief and Marshal Domingus, keeping watch over his town. Perhaps he patrols the streets, reminding those with ill intent that Dothan is a resilient town where justice is always carried out. Through the ups and downs of the years, Domingus gave all of himself to Dothan, and the echoes of his presence are still felt. He walks along the site of a deadly disaster that propelled a troubled city into becoming a prosperous mainstay of the area for hundreds of years to come. That intersection in the heart of the town carries the weight of history, violence, and the hopes and fears of those seeking justice, and perhaps Domingus is there to guard them all. If you like our videos, click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to click that notification bell so you never miss a video that we upload. Know someone you think that would like our videos? Share with them.